He entered the kitchen to inform his chefs about a new ingredient, but froze mid-step when he saw her. His black waitress, fingers flying over a laptop, coding something he had been spending $20 million every single year on his programmers to build. The hum of the kitchen faded into the background as his eyes locked on the glowing screen. Every line of code moved with precision, elegance, and brilliance that made his chest tighten. He had seen hundreds of developers, the best in the country, fail to produce even a fraction of this. And here she was, a waitress, in an apron dusted with flour, typing like the world depended on it. Amina didn't notice him at first. She was immersed, whispering calculations under her breath, occasionally tapping keys so fast it almost looked like magic. Her brow furrowed in concentration, her jaw set with quiet determination. Finally, after some minutes of him standing, she looked up and froze. The kitchen, the orders, the snow falling outside the tall windows, none of it mattered anymore. The billionaire standing before her wasn't just surprised. He was speechless. Who wrote this? His voice was low, controlled, but heavy with disbelief. Amina swallowed. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as Damien's eyes widened. Every second stretched like an eternity. One wrong word, one wrong move, and everything she had fought for could vanish in an instant. Then he leaned in closer, whispering something that made her heart stop. I've been spending $20 million every single year on my programmers, and you alone have done it better than them. They've been struggling for years. Wow, I can't even imagine what you'd do in her shoes. Tell me, where are you watching from right now? I'd love to hear from you, every single one of you. Drop a comment below, and let's share this moment together. Snow floated down over New York like tiny white feathers, settling on rooftops, sidewalks, and the tall windows of the Helix Lounge. Inside, warmth filled the air, but 20-year-old Amina Brooks stood by the kitchen doorway with cold fingers, an apron tied around her waist. She had been working double shifts all December, trying to cover her mom's medical bills. Most people only saw a tired black waitress, but behind her quiet eyes lived someone else entirely. Someone who spent every break teaching herself how to code on an old, fading laptop. Amina moved carefully between tables, placing plates with a soft smile, but her mind was somewhere else, inside lines of code waiting to be solved. When she slipped back into the kitchen to breathe for a moment, her manager stepped into her path. Amina, you're moving too slow, he snapped, waving his hand as if she were blocking his view. Pick it up. Christmas rush means no excuses. She whispered, Yes, sir, even though her feet ached and her eyes stung from exhaustion. As soon as he walked away, she drifted to the tiny employee corner no one cared about. She opened her laptop, its cracked screen glowing weakly. This was her escape, her secret world, a health tracking AI she had been building for months, something she hoped would help families like hers. Her fingers began to type. Then she felt a shift in the room, quiet, heavy, unexpected. A tall man in a dark winter coat stood behind her, frozen in place. Damien LaRoche, the billionaire owner of the building. Watching her code, the kitchen suddenly felt smaller, like the walls had quietly moved in. Amina's breath caught as she slowly closed her laptop, unsure if she was even allowed to look up. Damien LaRoche didn't say a word. He just stared at the dim glow of her screen, eyes narrow, as if trying to replay what he had just witnessed. His expensive coat still held snow on the shoulders, melting onto the tile floor. From the prep table, two waiters paused mid-chop. One whispered loudly enough for her to hear, "Look at her, acting like she's some kind of tech genius." Another snorted, "She's showing off. Watch, she'll get fired today." Their words slipped under Amina's skin like cold needles. She lowered her gaze, wishing the ground would swallow her before things got worse. She had only opened her laptop because her break timer was still running. She wasn't trying to be bold. She wasn't trying to be seen. But Damien had seen her anyway. A minute passed, maybe two. The room breathed around them, pans sizzling, orders shouting, snow tapping against the windows. Then, quietly, Damien pulled out a metal kitchen stool and sat down right beside her. The billionaire, in the staff corner, in the middle of a shift. A few cooks stopped working entirely. Amina felt her heart thump painfully in her chest. He leaned in just enough for only her to hear. His voice was low, controlled, almost shocked. "Who built that program?" She blinked. "Sir, I'm asking, he pressed, eyes locked onto hers. Because I've spent millions on developers, and none of them can write code like that. The entire kitchen froze with him. Can you feel the tension building? Amina's journey is just getting started. If her story moved you even a little, please like, subscribe, and share so more people can witness her rise. It really helps me keep telling stories like this. Amina's apartment in Newark, New Jersey, felt even colder than the snowy streets outside. The heating unit rattled like it was fighting for its life, and her mother, Ms. Brooks, lay on the living room couch wrapped in 2 blankets. Amina knelt beside her, gently adjusting the pillow behind her head. Her mom's breathing was soft but tired, the kind that made Amina check twice just to be sure she was okay. "You're working too hard, baby," her mom whispered, touching Amina's cheek. "Don't burn yourself out." Amina forced a small smile. "I'm okay, Mom. I just need to keep going." But later, in her tiny bedroom, she opened her laptop only to see the black screen flicker. It had been dying slowly for months. Tonight, it felt like it might quit for good. She pressed the power button again. Nothing. Her chest tightened. Maybe the waiters were right. Maybe she was wasting her time, just a waitress pretending she could change anything. She closed her eyes, fighting the sting of defeat. Then her phone buzzed. One new email. From Damien LaRoche. She sat up so fast her old mattress squeaked. Her hands shook as she opened the message. It was short. Only 2 lines, but they hit her harder than anything she'd ever read. "I reviewed your project. If this is truly yours, it might be worth millions." The room felt suddenly weightless. Amina froze, staring at the words, her mind racing, her heart pounding. In that instant, her life no longer felt small. It felt like something huge had just begun. The next morning, the Helix Lounge buzzed with Christmas music and clinking glasses, but Amina felt none of it. Her mind was stuck on Damien's email. Millions? It didn't feel real. She tried focusing on trays and tables, but her hands trembled each time she replayed his words in her head. As she passed by the prep counter, 2 servers slowed their steps, smirking. "There she goes, the secret coder," one whispered loudly. "Yeah, right," the other laughed. "She probably Googled a few things and thinks she's Einstein." Amina kept walking, pressing her lips together. Their words hurt more than she wanted to admit. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't even sure she believed in herself. Every step felt heavier. Every tray felt twice as heavy as yesterday. She was refilling water glasses when the room shifted. Voices stopped. Chairs squeaked. Forks paused in midair. A strange silence swept over the restaurant. Amina turned. Damien LaRoche was standing at the entrance, dressed in a charcoal coat, snow melting off his shoulders again. He wasn't alone this time. 2 assistants followed behind, but he walked straight toward the kitchen, straight toward her. Whispers exploded around the room. What is he doing here? Is he looking for someone? Wait, is he looking for her? Amina's chest tightened. Damien stopped right in front of her table. "Amina Brooks," he said clearly, loud enough for every staff member to hear. "I reviewed your work. You built something extraordinary." Her breath caught. "I'm offering you a position," he continued, "on my engineering team. Effective immediately." The entire restaurant froze. Eyes wide, mouths open, trays suspended midair, as Amina stood trembling, her world flipping upside down in one bold, impossible moment. Amina had never seen a place like LaRoche Innovations. The New York headquarters rose into the sky like a glass fortress, cold, sharp, and sparkling with winter sunlight. Inside, everything felt too clean, too bright, too expensive for someone who still shared a bedroom with her mother's medical equipment. Her ID badge hung stiff around her neck, and each step echoed across the polished floors as Damien led her through hallways filled with engineers tapping rapidly at their screens. But the moment she joined the main development room, the welcome she expected never came. Senior engineers barely glanced her way. Some gave tight, forced smiles. Others looked right through her, as if she were invisible. During introductions, one man nodded, then turned back to his monitor before she finished saying her name. Another whispered something to a coworker, and both chuckled softly. Amina sat at her new desk, tiny compared to theirs, and opened her laptop. She reminded herself why she was here. Her project mattered. Her mom mattered. She mattered. Still, the silence pressed on her like weight. Hours passed. A few engineers walked by her chair without saying a word. When she asked where she could find certain files, One woman shrugged and said, "Figure it out. If you're really a developer, you should know." Amina swallowed her hurt and got back to work. Near closing time, her stomach finally relaxed. She had rebuilt her folder system on the company server, set up her code environment, and backed up her project. She stepped away for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. When she returned, her screen flashed red. Error. Folder not found. Confused, she refreshed. Still gone. Every file. Every line. Every note. Deleted. A shadow moved behind her. A coworker smirked, arms crossed, eyes cold. "Maybe stick to waiting tables," he said softly, his tone cutting and hateful. Tech isn't for everyone. Amina's heart cracked wide open as she stared at the empty screen, her entire project erased by someone who wanted her gone. The fight isn't over yet, and Amina's courage is just getting tested. Show some love by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Let's make sure everyone sees her brilliance and determination. Amina stayed long after the sun went down, long after most of the team had grabbed their coats and disappeared into the snowy New York night. The office lights dimmed to half power, casting soft shadows across the glass walls. Amina sat alone at her desk, the empty folder still glowing on her screen like a wound she couldn't close. Her eyes burned. The tears came slowly at first, then quietly, silently. She wiped them away with the sleeve of her sweater, refusing to make a sound. She couldn't afford to break. Not here, not now. Her mother needed her. Her dreams needed her. She inhaled deeply and opened a blank file. If they thought erasing her work would stop her, they didn't know who she was. With trembling fingers, she began rewriting everything from memory, algorithms, prediction models, data structures, all of it. Hours passed. Her hands cramped. Her shoulders ached. The building hummed softly around her, an empty, echoing space. She sniffed, blinked through tears, and kept typing. By the time dawn crept in through the windows, painting the office pale blue, Amina had rebuilt nearly 70% of her project. She leaned back, exhausted but proud. She had done the impossible. But peace didn't last. The elevator dinged, and Damien stepped out, followed by 2 senior staff members. He moved with purpose, his sharp gaze scanning the room until he saw her. His eyes dropped to her screen, then widened. He rushed over. "Who did this?" he demanded, staring at the fragments of rebuilt code. "Amina, your directory was wiped." Before she could answer, one of the engineers stepped forward, voice dripping with false concern. "Sir, we think Amina deleted the files herself. Maybe to get attention." Amina froze. Damien's gaze snapped to her, sharp and piercing, the room suddenly heavy with suspicion. The conference room felt colder than the winter outside. Amina sat at the long glass table while 2 HR representatives stared at her with tight, unreadable expressions. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers twisting nervously as they clicked through her file on a tablet. One of them finally spoke. "Amina, we're trying to understand how someone with your background gained access to high-level code partitions. Your resume doesn't show any formal training." The other added, eyes narrowing. "No degree, no certifications. Can you explain how you wrote something this advanced?" Amina swallowed hard. "I taught myself. Every night. For years." They exchanged a look, one that didn't believe her for a second. "We've also received reports that you deleted the team's shared directory," the first HR rep continued. "This could be considered sabotage." Amina's breath caught. "I didn't delete anything. Someone erased my work. We don't have evidence of that." The rep replied calmly, almost rehearsed. "But we do have logs showing your account was the last one connected to the files." Amina stared at the table. She had left her workstation unlocked for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. The door opened. 2 security guards stepped inside. "Ms. Brooks," one said gently but firmly, "we need you to come with us." Her heart plunged. "Wait, am I being fired?" The HR rep didn't answer. Amina rose slowly, feeling the stares of passing employees through the glass walls as the guards walked beside her. Whispers followed her down the hallway like a trail she couldn't outrun. Security opened the lobby doors. The cold hit her first, sharp, unforgiving. Then the final blow came. Her access badge was removed from her neck, and the glass doors locked behind her as she stood alone in the falling snow. Snow drifted down in thick, silent sheets as Amina stepped onto the Manhattan sidewalk. Cars crawled past with their headlights glowing through the frost, and holiday lights blinked across store windows, but none of it touched her. Her fingers curled into the sleeves of her coat as she walked, head low, breath fogging the air in front of her. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the cold was settling inside her bones. People rushed by, tourists laughing, workers hurrying home, families taking pictures under Christmas decorations. But Amina moved like she was underwater, her mind replaying the moment her badge was taken, the disbelief on her own face, the pity in the guard's eyes, the glass doors sliding shut behind her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't look at it. She didn't want to see another message, another reminder of everything falling apart. She crossed the street, wiping away a tear before it could freeze on her cheek. When she reached the corner of 49th and Lexington, someone tapped her shoulder. "Hey, are you Amina Brooks?" the stranger asked. He was a man in a heavy scarf, carrying a stack of newspapers under his arm. She stiffened. "Yes, why?" The man hesitated, eyes soft with something that looked like pity. Then he pulled a single newspaper from his stack and handed it to her. "You should see this," he murmured. Amina frowned and unfolded it with shaking hands. Her breath caught. Across the tech column was a bold headline: LaRoche Innovations engineer under investigation for stealing internal code. Underneath was her photo, her name, her face, her reputation, shattered for the world to see. Amina's vision blurred as the wind whipped the snow around her, turning the city into a storm she couldn't outrun. Things are heating up, and the stakes have never been higher. If you're rooting for Amina as much as I am, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world and keeps her story alive. Amina trudged through the snow back to her small Newark apartment, shoulders hunched under the weight of the day. The apartment felt warmer as she opened the door, the faint smell of soup filling the air. Her mother, Ms. Brooks, was curled up on the couch, eyes soft and tired, knitting needles resting on her lap. "Hey, baby," her mom said, patting the seat beside her. "You look frozen. Sit down for a minute." Amina sank onto the couch, shivering. Tears pricked her eyes again, but she blinked them away. I don't know what's happening anymore," she admitted. "Everything I worked for gone, and now the world thinks I stole it." Her mother reached out and held her hand, warmth seeping through the cold. "Amina, listen to me. People will always try to tear you down. But you, my genius girl, you don't let them. You keep going. You fix what's broken, even if the world doesn't understand you yet." Amina nodded, letting herself lean against her mother's shoulder. For a few minutes, she allowed herself to breathe, to imagine a future where her work could really matter. Then her phone buzzed sharply on the coffee table. She picked it up with trembling hands. The screen showed a message from an unknown number, marked urgent. Her eyes widened as she read. "Meet me at the pier. It's urgent, Damien." Her heart skipped. Could he trust her after everything? Could she trust him? The room felt suddenly colder again, the weight of the city's snow pressing in from the windows. Amina knew, without a doubt, that whatever waited at the pier could change everything or ruin it all. The pier stretched out into the icy Hudson, lit by a few flickering lamps that reflected off the dark water. Snow had slowed to a gentle fall, dusting the wooden planks with soft white. Amina pulled her coat tighter around her, nerves twisting her stomach into knots. She scanned the empty pier, every shadow making her flinch, until a familiar figure emerged from the mist. "Ms. Brooks," Damien called softly, his breath visible in the cold night air. His usual confidence seemed tempered by unease as he approached. I owe you an apology." Amina's arms crossed instinctively. "You're the one who owns the company. Why am I here in the snow?" Damien paused, hands tucked in his pockets. "I lost control of my team. I trusted people who didn't deserve it. They sabotaged your work. I didn't protect you like I should have." Amina studied him, unsure whether to feel relief or suspicion. The snow fell silently between them, heavy but calm, like the city itself was holding its breath. Then Damien's expression darkened. His voice dropped to a low, urgent tone. "It's worse than that. Someone inside the company doesn't just want your work gone. They want you gone. They've started a campaign to destroy your reputation, to make sure you can't fight back." Amina's stomach sank. Inside, "Who?" He shook his head, jaw tight. "I don't know yet, but I've seen the emails, the logs, the messages. Whoever it is, they're powerful, and they're watching your every move." Amina's hands curled into fists. The snow swirled around them like a warning. For the first time, she realized this wasn't just about code. It was about her life, her safety, and the fight she had no choice but to win. Damien's penthouse overlooked the city like a glass throne. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan's sparkling skyline, and the hum of traffic far below felt distant, almost unreal. Amina sat across from him at the sleek conference table, laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She tried to focus on her project, the lines of code and algorithms that had consumed her for months. Damien leaned forward, pointing at sections of her AI dashboard. See here? This module predicts patient risk more efficiently than anything our team has tried. And this visualization, you built it from scratch. Amina nodded, heart still tight from the day's events. Yes, I've been careful with the datasets, testing each function over and over. For a moment, the tension in the room eased. It almost felt like her work was being appreciated, like someone finally understood. Then Damien's face darkened, and he opened another folder on his tablet. The glow from the screen reflected in his eyes, serious and sharp. I need to show you something, he said, voice low. He tapped a few keys, and a series of emails appeared. Amina leaned closer. Her stomach twisted. The emails were from senior staff members, direct messages, discussing plans to sabotage her project, discredit her work, and make it look like she had caused the deletions. See this? Damien said, voice tight. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. Every deleted file, every whispered rumor, every HR question, it was orchestrated. Amina felt a cold rage bubble in her chest. The betrayal cut deeper than she expected. Someone in the company had tried to destroy her career and her life, intentionally. The room seemed to shrink, and for the first time, she realized this fight was bigger than just reclaiming her project. Back at LaRoche Innovations, the office felt charged with electricity. Amina and Damien worked side by side in a small conference room, laptops open, fingers flying across keyboards. Every log, every access point, every deleted file was scrutinized. They pieced together timestamps, tracing actions through the company network. Finally, Damien leaned back, eyes narrowing. This isn't random, he said. Look at this pattern. Only one person had the clearance and the skill to manipulate everything without leaving immediate traces. Amina's eyes widened. Who? Lance Whitaker, Damien replied grimly. Lead engineer. The guy we trusted the most. He's been coordinating the sabotage from the start. Amina's hands curled into fists. The betrayal cut deep. Lance had been friendly, even supportive in meetings, but behind the glass walls, he had been plotting her downfall. They both hurried to secure her rebuilt files, running scripts to back up every line of code to external drives. But before they could finish, alarms blared across the monitors. Every terminal flashed red. Every server read, access denied. What? Amina gasped. Damien's face turned stone cold. He's locked us out. Every server, every backup, every network resource. He's cut us off. The office lights flickered as if mirroring the chaos on the screens. Amina's stomach dropped. Lance wasn't just trying to slow them down. He was trying to erase her existence inside the company entirely. She looked at Damien, breath rapid. We have to get it back. Damien's jaw tightened. And we will, but he's powerful. This fight just got dangerous. Outside, snow swirled against the windows, the city indifferent to the storm brewing inside. Amina stayed late into the night, the glow from her laptop the only light in the quiet office. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, writing countercode designed to bypass Lance's lockdown. Each line was deliberate, precise, her mind a whirlwind of logic and determination. Damien sat nearby, scanning security logs, offering advice where he could. Almost there, she whispered, her eyes glued to the screen. If I can just get through the firewalls. Minutes stretched into hours. The hum of the servers filled the room like a low, threatening growl. Outside, the city was muffled under fresh snow, oblivious to the battle raging inside the building. Amina paused to run a final test. Her pulse raced. Could she actually regain access? She hit enter, and the system whirred in response, flickering as if it were alive. Then, nothing. The monitors went dark. Red text flashed across every terminal. System failure. All data lost. Amina froze. Her heart sank. Months of algorithms, data models, testing results, vanished. The room felt impossibly empty, the silence oppressive. Damien stepped forward, eyes wide, jaw tight. No, it can't be. The backups. They're gone too. Amina whispered, disbelief and anger mingling. Everything we've done. Wiped. Her hands shook over the keyboard, unable to type. She felt the weight of despair pressing down. Then Damien's voice cut through the darkness, firm and urgent. We can rebuild. But this was planned. He wants to break us completely. And we're not safe here anymore. Amina clenched her fists, snow from the city streets still faintly dusting her coat, sleeves from earlier. Her fire burned hotter than ever. She would not be defeated. Amina sat on the floor of her small New Jersey apartment, laptop balanced on her knees, the city lights glowing through the frosted window behind her. She felt the weight of the previous night pressing down, but she refused to give up. Slowly, she sifted through every corner of her storage drives, external backups, and even old cloud accounts she had forgotten about. Then, like a whisper in the dark, she found it, a hidden folder labeled Project Phoenix_Backup. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Every line of code she had painstakingly written was there, intact. Her heart lifted for the first time in days. She allowed herself a small smile, a single tear escaping down her cheek. This isn't over, she whispered, voice raw. Not yet. She spent hours reloading the program, running tests, and verifying that every algorithm was intact. Slowly, confidence returned. The fire that Lance tried to extinguish flickered back to life inside her. But the relief was short-lived. Her phone buzzed violently, shattering the quiet of her apartment. She picked it up, eyes narrowing as she read the screen. Notice of legal action, corporate theft allegations filed against you. La Roche Innovations. Amina's stomach dropped. Her heart thumped violently. The very company that had witnessed her genius now accused her of stealing her own work. The sender's email contained scanned documents, claims, and signatures that made it impossible to ignore. The legal machinery had begun turning against her. Her fingers shook over the keyboard. She looked out the window at the softly falling snow, feeling a mix of fear and determination. Some doors close forever, she realized, but others, if fought for, could be pried open, even under the heaviest storm. And she was ready to fight. The marble floors of the Washington, D.C. legal offices gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights. Amina sat stiffly in a black chair, laptop closed on her lap, heart pounding. The room buzzed with voices, lawyers pacing, papers shuffling, phones buzzing. But all she could hear was the weight of her own name being dissected. Your Honor, the evidence is clear, one attorney said, pointing to the printed emails and server logs. Ms. Brooks had access at the time the data was removed. We request she be held liable until the investigation is complete. Another lawyer leaned forward, voice calm but firm. Your Honor, this is a young woman who built her own project from scratch. She has no history of misconduct. The supposed deletion was orchestrated by others. Our evidence proves it. Amina's fingers gripped the edge of her chair. Her throat ached, and the noise of accusations and counterarguments made her dizzy. Every word felt like it could tip the balance of her life. Hours passed. The debates continued, tense and relentless. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, finally leaned forward. The room fell silent, all eyes on her. Given the claims and the potential risk to corporate assets, the judge said slowly, I am issuing a temporary order restricting Ms. Brooks from accessing or using the software in question until further review. Amina's stomach sank. Her hands went cold. The very work she had built, the program that could change lives, was now legally barred from her control. Outside, the winter wind pressed against the courthouse windows like a reminder. The battle was far from over, and every step forward now carried a weight heavier than snow. Amina settled into a small tech lab in Massachusetts, rented through Damien's connections. The space smelled of solder, warm coffee, and hope. Sunlight filtered through wide windows, highlighting rows of computers, whiteboards filled with diagrams, and the hum of quiet determination. For the first time in weeks, Amina felt she could breathe. She set up her own workstation and began the painstaking process of rebuilding her AI program from scratch, legally this time, without touching any of the company servers that could get her into more trouble. Line by line, algorithm by algorithm, she reconstructed her project, double-checking each function and test. Hours blurred together, but with each successful run, confidence returned. By evening, she leaned back and studied the fully operational system on her screen. Every prediction model worked perfectly. She allowed herself a moment to smile, brushing snowflakes off her coat from her walk earlier. But the moment of peace was brief. Damien entered quietly, expression tight. "Amina, we need to talk," he said. Before she could respond, his phone vibrated. He glanced at it, and his eyebrows shot up. "They've been watching," he muttered. "Some of my rivals, people who want the technology for themselves, tried to contact you today. They want you to leave and work with them." In secret, Amina's hands clenched over the keyboard. The offer was tempting: money, resources, freedom. But it came with strings, lies, and betrayal. Her eyes narrowed. She had built this from nothing, fought to reclaim it, and no one, no rival, no saboteur, would steal her vision. The storm outside Massachusetts rattled the windows as she whispered to herself, "Not now. Not ever." The Miami sun glinted off the polished conference hall, the hum of chatter and excitement filling the air. Amina stood on stage, laptop open, ready to demonstrate her newly rebuilt AI. Her heart raced, but this time it was fueled by confidence, not fear. Rows of investors, journalists, and engineers watched expectantly. She took a deep breath. "This system predicts health risks for families with limited access to medical care," she began, her voice steady. She walked the audience through her algorithms, highlighting the visual dashboards and real-time predictive models. Murmurs of admiration rippled through the crowd. For a few minutes, Amina allowed herself to feel pride. Years of struggle, betrayal, and nights spent coding alone had led to this moment. The applause was genuine, the smiles encouraging. Then a hush fell over the room. A man at the rival company, someone Damien had warned her about, strode onto the stage beside the moderator. The microphone hissed. "Interesting work, Ms. Brooks," he said, voice loud enough for the audience to hear, dripping with false praise. "But the question remains, how does someone supporting an ailing single mother in Newark suddenly produce a multi-million-dollar algorithm? What other secrets is she hiding?" Gasps spread across the hall. Cameras flashed. Amina's stomach turned as he pulled up a slide with a photo of her mother's modest apartment and her personal information. Her hands trembled. Her voice faltered. She had anticipated attacks on her work, but not this. Using her family to humiliate her publicly. The applause of the audience had turned into whispers, judgment, and curiosity. Betrayal burned hotter than the Miami sun. Amina realized this battle was no longer just about her project. It was about protecting everything she loved. The streets of Maryland were quiet, blanketed in early winter fog that blurred the edges of streetlights. Amina walked alone, coat collar pulled high, breath steaming in the cold air. Her mind replayed the Miami conference over and over. Her mother's face flashed in her thoughts, the whispers of the crowd echoing in her ears. For a moment, she let herself imagine walking away, leaving the project, leaving the fight, letting everything go. She stopped at a small park bench, hands in her pockets, staring at the frost-covered grass. The fire in her chest that had carried her through sabotage, false accusations, and humiliation felt like it might finally burn out. Her phone buzzed in the quiet. She pulled it out reluctantly, expecting another threat or a cold email. But the message on the screen made her freeze. "Amina, it's me, Lance. I was wrong. I tampered with your code. I deleted your files. I fabricated logs. It was all me. No one else. You didn't deserve this. I'm sorry." Her heart thudded wildly. The admission cut through weeks of tension and fear, leaving her stunned. Rage, relief, and disbelief tangled inside her. She read it again, slower this time, letting the weight sink in. The storm of deceit had a face, and it was finally revealed. Amina's fists clenched at her sides. The betrayal had been personal, but now there was clarity. The path forward, though dangerous, was suddenly visible. The fire inside her reignited, brighter and sharper than ever. She whispered to the foggy Maryland night, "You thought you could stop me. You were wrong." Her eyes burned with determination as she pulled her coat tighter and started walking toward the next battle. In a secluded New Hampshire cabin, snow piling high outside the frosted windows, Amina and Damien spread documents across a wooden table. Each page, each email, and every server log was carefully organized. The fire in the fireplace crackled softly, contrasting the tension in the room. They were preparing for the final showdown, a legal and technical battle to reclaim her work and clear her name. Everything needs to be airtight, Damien said, adjusting his glasses. Every timestamp, every line of code. We can't leave anything to chance. Amina nodded, scanning a folder of emails from Lance. Every word he had written, every lie he had orchestrated, was now documented. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of finally having control over the situation. Hours passed, the cabin silent except for typing, the hum of her laptop, and the occasional gust of wind rattling the window panes. Then Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, eyes narrowing. Amina, it's Lance, he said. He's booked a flight. He's trying to leave the country. Amina's heart slammed against her ribs. Months of sabotage, lies, and humiliation might be erased if he escaped justice. Her fingers clenched around her laptop. No, she whispered, voice sharp. He won't get away with this. Not after everything he's done. Damien reached across the table, placing a steady hand on hers. We move fast. The authorities are ready. This ends tonight. Outside, the snow fell heavier, covering the tracks that Lance had tried to leave behind. Inside, Amina's determination burned hotter than ever. She was ready to win, no matter what it took. New York glimmered beneath a pale winter sun, snowflakes drifting lazily against the skyline. Amina stood in a sleek conference room, laptop open, fingers poised over the launch button. The months of struggle, betrayal, and relentless coding had led to this moment. She inhaled deeply, heart pounding, then pressed enter. The health tracking AI went live, instantly accessible to hospitals, clinics, and families across the country. Notifications buzzed as systems synced, data streamed, and dashboards lit up. Her creation, born from sleepless nights in a kitchen corner, rebuilt in secrecy, fought for through sabotage and lies, was finally in the world, helping people who needed it most. Damien watched from the sidelines, eyes proud but quiet. You did it, he said softly. Amina allowed herself a small, trembling smile. We did it, she corrected. Not just for her, but for every person who had doubted her, every family she hoped to help, and every quiet moment she had spent believing in herself. Then the news broke. Major media outlets picked up her story. The young black woman who coded in a restaurant kitchen, whose brilliance was nearly destroyed by jealousy and sabotage, had reclaimed her work and launched it for public good. Headlines celebrated her courage, her skill, and her unbreakable spirit. Messages flooded in, thank yous, congratulations, and admiration from people all over the world. Amina read them quietly, tears welling in her eyes. Standing by the window, looking at the snow-dusted streets of Manhattan, she whispered, I told them, I'm not small, I'm not invisible, and I will rise. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the storm she had weathered, but inside, Amina felt a calm, radiant joy. The world had finally seen the truth, and she had reclaimed not just her work, but her life. Her journey was over, and yet, in every line of code, in every life her AI would touch, it had only just begun. If Amina's journey inspired you, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. I want to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so more people can witness her rise. Remember, no matter the obstacles, brilliance and courage always find a way.